are listening to the Moms in Business podcast, where we get real about all the things on balancing motherhood and still having a thriving business. It is my goal that you hear from real moms, you hear real stories on mindset, time management strategies, and even the moments of crying in the shower, because we have all been there. I'm your host, Misty Shaheen, life and business coach for moms who want the freedom to live life on their own terms without sacrificing their health or family time. Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm so excited about today's episode. And in this interview, I talked to Heidi Frost, who is an occupational therapist, a certified health coach, and a yoga instructor. And she helps women manage high stress and energy management. In this episode, we talk about self-care, prioritizing yourself. We also get into adrenal health, gut health, stress management, and the invisible factor to your low energy and weight gain. And then it gets super juicy, and we talk about what it means to be addicted to your own trauma. So stay tuned and listen in. Thank you for joining. Today we have Heidi on the line. Hello, Heidi.
Hello. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I am doing very well. Thank you. How about you? How's your day going?
It's going great. So can you tell us your full name and
Sure.
What is it that you do?
Sure. So my name is Heidi Frost, and I have been an occupational therapist for about 19 years. And then for the past 10 years, I've been studying holistic health and wellness. So I am also a certified health coach, a registered yoga instructor, and a weight loss coach.
Perfect.
Yep. So my business is Revolution Health, and I help women manage high stress and low energy so that they can be physically, mentally, and emotionally present in every aspect of their life. So I work with my clients all virtually online now.
Wow. Nice. Is that something you had to transition doing, or is that something you've always done?
Yeah, it's interesting because for many, many years, I worked with, my clients on site in person in gyms and fitness centers and face to face. And then about, I'd say 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago, I started transitioning online just prior to, the pandemic and COVID. And so it kind of worked out really actually kind of nice in that way, where I was already connected online with a lot of my clients and, working virtually with them. So that worked out in our favor because we were sort of forced into that anyway. So now I am completely 100% virtually online.
Wow, nice. Yeah, I love working online. So how are you liking that with your clients? Has it been an easy transition, or did you have to do some troubleshooting?
Yeah, I think I've got a good balance right now where I, have a nice time as far as my time balance between coaching, between, different creation sort of moments of being able to create videos and create resources and have that creative time. And then also have enough face-to-face time and connection with my community and my clients so that I still am very much in touch and connected to them and, the energy and what's going on in the communities, but also have that time and space to be creative and allow that energy to flow. So I think I'm in a really good space as far as, a good balance of both.
Yeah. So how did you get started in this kind of work? Is this something that you knew that you wanted to do like from an early age, or is it something you more fell into?
Yeah. So I've been in healthcare, and my entire adult life. So right out of high school into college, through college, I worked in hospitals, and I was always in the health and wellness arena. And, during my professional career in the early years as an occupational therapist, I loved working with clients. I loved with, my patients being face to face and helping people heal and recover in rehab. And, as time evolved, and I just felt called and pulled just to do something more, something different, something that was just really my own flavor and my own my own vibe. And I started pursuing, health coaching and became a yoga instructor and was able to really identify the target market that I wanted to work with and, working with women dealing with stress and energy management because of my own journey that I went through, in my late 20s, early 30s. And that's what really led me down the path to holistic health and really understanding how to manage your health in a natural way and manage your energy and protect your energy and, be able to be productive and be really, able to balance that career and family life at the same time without feeling burnt out and overwhelmed.
Yeah, wow, I love that. So I don't know if you know my story, but I've been through burnout twice and I'm currently going through recovering right now, even now. This is a topic that's so near and dear to my heart because as women, we get stuck in these ways of feeling like we have all these different hats. We have our career and we have, our home life and we're parenting and we're still trying to be a good friend. And then a lot of women have a hard time with setting boundaries and taking time for ourselves and feeling selfish about that. And that's where we get into these places of burnout, places of I feel so depleted.
Totally. Yep. Yeah, it's so common. It really is so common. And I think one of the things that I see so often that is one of the biggest challenges around it is that it becomes normalized almost, this sort of, hustle state and, this constant busyness and this constant, multitasking and overscheduling and, every hour of the day is booked. And, this becomes a normal way of life, I think, for so many women, especially mothers that are also running businesses. And, before you know it, 6 months go by, a year, 2 years, 5 years. And it's so hard to, realize what has happened and the patterns that have been established and how that can impact your health. And, it takes sometimes someone else sort of shedding light to it, or unfortunately, a potential health event to bring that, awareness and attention to how that can impact you and how that, this can really affect your health and your adrenals and your mental and emotional health and really, become a chronic problem.
Yeah. So what is some things that a woman can do if she is noticing that she's low energy or she's noticing some health problems coming up? What are some of those first things that she can start doing?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's sort of a very holistic approach. There's not necessarily just one thing that's going to make all the difference. And I think that's sometimes where we can go down that path of, trial and being not successful in being able to really restore our energy and really manage our stress because we think, oh, the diet is the answer, or the meditation is the answer, or maybe I need a cleanse or a detox and that's the answer. And it's not really any one of those things, but it's about sort of creating this sequence and this strategy and doing the right things in the right order to really impact not just your body, but your mind as well, and have that mind-body connection really working in synergy to manage your energy and manage your stress. So it's a great question. The first thing that I always suggest, the first thing that we always start with is working with nutrition and working with an anti-inflammatory diet and working with gut health and really, clearing the inflammation in the gut and working with that mind-body connection as far as, reducing that inflammation. Because when our gut is inflamed and clogged, it really is going to disrupt all of our energy-producing hormones. So I typically start with nutrition and working with the gut. I also, will often take my clients through a detox process, which is very simple, but very effective. So working with clean whole foods and really eliminating a lot of the sugars and processed foods and refined carbs. And this is just for a short period of time. I'm not a big believer in restrictive diets. It's not my thing, but just really to give your gut a chance to repair and restore and give your adrenals a break and get your hormones in balance and your metabolism working. And again, all of these things work synergistically working together. So those are typically the first two things. Then from there, we would work on a consistent stress management protocol. And really, consistency is key when I say that. So, I love anything as far as breath work, journaling, meditation, yoga, even just exercise, whatever this stress management self-care practice that is going to resonate and be effective for you. But the key is being consistent with it to get the outcome that you're looking for. So nutrition, cleansing, stress, those are really the three pillars that I always focus on when we're looking at energy restoration. So that's the typical path.
Yeah, I love that. So the first time I went through burnout, I was working from home and I was not coaching. I had an in-home daycare. So I had kids around all the time. Yeah. And I just found myself where I had kids around all the time, not only my own kids, but other people's kids.
Yeah.
And I had no self-care plan at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just working whenever other people needed me to work. And so I had no boundaries. I really didn't have any hours. And so sun up to sundown, I was pretty much working. Wow. I didn't feel like I was working because I was at home and, but I just had zero time just for myself.
Yep.
Yeah. And so I ended up going through my own health journey and I dropped 36 pounds. I increased my energy and I ended up dropping that previous business because I realized my own energy, it just wasn't lighting me up. I wasn't passionate about it. And it really wasn't really working with my lifestyle.
Right.
That's where I started into coaching because other women were coming to me, asking me what I was doing. And so I started coaching them. And the one thing I recognized was stress with the women that I was working with. Stress management was such a huge issue. A lot of women, they were like, well, I'm only eating once a day and we always started with nutrition, but I always saw a theme where they were women, they were career focused, they had a family, and they just didn't have a lot of boundaries. They didn't have any kind of self-care program where they were taking care of themselves.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And it's interesting that you say that because even though, like you said, we always start with nutrition, but in all honesty, when I start to work with a client, stress management starts at day one, right? And really self-care is ongoing. And it's so true that, like we were saying, I think especially working mothers, working women, we're, always striving for more and always working on personal growth and development. But again, we don't always prioritize what it takes to allow us to manage our health and identity so that we can get to those next levels. And a lot of that has to do with our own self-care and stress management and being very clear about those boundaries, making that non-negotiable, making that, fiercely protecting that self-care routine and, not allowing anything to get in the way between you and those practices because it has everything to do with your health and vitality and energy. And, so I almost sometimes tell my clients it's just as important as medicine. If a doctor told you, take this medicine and it's going to make you feel better, you would take the medication if you had to, right? So if your stress management protocol and your self-care routine is going to make you feel better physically, mentally, and emotionally, then it has to be taken that seriously. And that commitment has to be that strong that you're going to, no matter what, could come in between it, you're not going to allow those boundaries to be broken. And when that is done consistently, that's where those dramatic and powerful transformations occur.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just a lot of self-awareness too around how much time you truly need for yourself because we're all so different. I mean,
Yep.
Some women, they are very extroverted and they actually recharge by being around other people, whereas others are actually, I found with myself, I need a lot of alone
Yeah.
time to
I'm the
really
same.
recharge.
Yeah.
So I love journaling. I love to
Yeah.
take walks by myself. And my husband's like, well, why don't
Hmm.
you take the kids with you? And I'm like,
I know.
no, that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah, I could totally get that. And it's interesting that you say that because it's so true. And that's even as a coach, I can't tell somebody what the exact protocol that is going to work for them until we go through these different lifestyle factors and these different, personality connections and what is going to resonate with them and have an impact. Because the same practices, like you said, don't work for everybody, but it's establishing, becoming aware of, where you're really in need of that recharge and that restoration, and establishing what's going to give you that, and then blocking that time and creating that commitment so that you can actually implement it. Because like for some people, it could be, a 10-minute meditation in the morning or some breath work or a walk outdoors. But until you really know what's going to have that impact for you, that's where, trying these different practices comes in, establishing what works for you, and then setting the boundaries around the application.
Yeah, love that. And, can we talk a little bit about what stress does on the body? More and more people are being aware of the power of good nutrition and they're watching their diet, but I don't feel like enough is talked about on
Mm-hmm.
stress management and the amount of effect stress really has on our body and on
Yeah,
our health.
totally. I could not agree more. It's like, I call it the invisible factor. It's like this hidden in the background. And the thing about it is none of us are immune to it, right? Stress is a part of life, whether, even if you have, you've met all your goals and things are going great for you and everything is wonderful, there's still some level of stress in everybody's life, right? So it's not going away. And the thing about it is when we're under chronic long-term stress, your body does not know the difference between, whether you are struggling in a relationship or struggling in your career or something that's putting this pressure and this stress on you, or you're being chased by a bear in the wilderness. Your body just knows that you are in distress. So it's going to react and respond the same way, sending your adrenal glands working into overdrive, your cortisol levels are running high. So you're always in this state of fight or flight. And what happens over time is that completely depletes your body's ability to sustain your energy. Because imagine if, you're running from this bear all day long, eventually you're going to wear out. And the same is true if you have this constant, whatever, if it's work stress, a business stress going on, or family stress going on, or whatever it may be in your life at that moment. Your body only knows that you're under stress and it acts as if it's trying to protect you. So in this state of high alert and fight or flight and feeling as though internally you're trying to survive, that's where your adrenal glands become completely depleted. You can no longer sustain the energy that you need to survive. And, this is where we start to see health suffering in other areas, so secondary diagnoses popping up, flare ups of things that, autoimmune conditions, or flare ups dealing with joint pain, or, things that are out of balance in the body hormonally. And a lot of times, a big part of the root of the problem is caused by stress. So, it slows down the metabolism. Therefore, we end up with weight gain, trouble losing weight. And again, so all of those are symptoms and secondary problems. When we look at the root, it's this long-term chronic stress. So it can be, very damaging to health if it's not managed in a way that can get your body out of that state of high alert and get your cortisol levels down and get your adrenaline down and make your body perceive that it's safe and that it's not in danger and that you're not always running from the bear, So that is the power of long-term stress.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so true. I can speak
Yep.
with from experience the effect of stress. So once I was coaching for a while, I kind of got to a point where I felt called to do something different. I took my business offline and I didn't have the support that I thought I had in place. And so I ended up working more hours than what I originally had planned. And I was also, that was the year I had a newborn baby, my number 3, and I started homeschooling my children.
Oh,
All
wow.
in the
Yeah.
same year. And so this took a massive toll on my own health,
Yeah.
and it put me in this adrenal, like I was just purely working from adrenals.
Yeah.
And so then last year in 2020, at the beginning of the year, I put a stop to it. I came home. I'm not doing this anymore. And I still put on 40 pounds. So even though I
Interesting.
thought I slowed down enough, I was still working from home though. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
because I love to work. And I've
Right.
come to realize that I didn't slow down enough because I
Yes.
still wasn't
Yeah.
truly taking care of myself the way I needed it.
Right. It's so true. And the other part of it, this is the really interesting thing too, is that because this high stress becomes so normalized for us, it's really interesting if you sort of observe patterns. If you're someone who's been caught up in it, because I've been there too, so I can totally relate. And I felt the same way. I had, major digestive issues when I was going through a period of long-term high stress. I was addicted to antacids and taking Prilosec around the clock and grinding my teeth at night and hardly sleeping. And it was affecting me very severely. So, but what happens is that we get stuck in this pattern of this high stress becoming so normal that if we have a period of downtime or we have some space and time, we'll find something to keep us busy, and we'll create busyness and we'll create stress for ourselves almost because it's what our body and mind are so used to. That's the zone that your subconscious pulls you to because it's so familiar and that's what's perceived as normal. So it's something that can become a tough cycle to break. So it's really something that if if anybody has ever felt like they're curious if stress is impacting their health or their life, I challenge you to sort of look at these patterns and look at, your behaviors and what are you choosing to do with your time and space when you have it? Are you allowing yourself to slow down and receive, some downtime and open space and clarity? Or are you filling it with busyness and tasks and other jobs to do? And, so it's really interesting how we can get stuck in these cycles and patterns. And even very subconsciously, it can become, a very tough thing to even be aware of and acknowledge that it's happening.
Yeah.
So,
it's interesting you say that because I was listening to a podcast earlier just today, and the coach talked about how we can become addicted to our own trauma.
Yeah.
And
it's so
she
true.
talked about her trauma with stress, and she was addicted to just always doing. And even when she didn't have stress going on in her life, she put herself into situations where she would always be stressed.
Yeah, it's so common. And like you said, it doesn't get talked about a lot. So I think it's not something that people are very aware of, especially women that are, again, doing so much all of the time that it just becomes so normal and that you don't even realize that this is a negative pattern cycle. And this is something that can begin to impact your health. And a lot of times we don't even realize that we might be unnecessarily drawn to these things to create this stress. So yeah, it's fascinating, really.
Yeah, it is really fascinating. And it's interesting to see that as a society, we've been groomed this way. We've been groomed to achieve and get good grades and do your best. And we haven't really been taught what it means to slow down. And I remember as a child, like even things like daydreaming and the creative pieces sometimes aren't as celebrated as sports or this act of more of the masculine energy where you're always like doing something, you're reading books or you're learning something, and we don't hear too much about the benefits of slowing down, allowing ourselves to be creative, those arts, dancing, singing.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. And I think, yeah, especially in the US, in our society, it's a huge problem, right?
Mhm.
And I think, it's so easy to get caught up in this performance. How are we being judged on our performance, and are we meeting expectations? And, like you said, even from childhood, we're always being, evaluated and judged on how we're performing at school, as athletics, even in these different things. And we're not allowing that time and space for creativity. And that sort of follows through into adulthood, whereas it's always about, what level are you at in your career, and, how are you doing, in the community, and what are you contributing to? And there's always sort of this measurement going on about, status and where do you fall in the ranks. And, I think it's, again, adding more of that sort of pressure and that disconnecting from that time and space to be creative and allow yourself to be told and do what you're called to do and where your passion lies, because that may not be what's going to, fit in with the judgments of society and the status of your community and your environment and your culture. So it's really important that we create that for ourselves, and we allow ourselves to have that self-expression, and, sort of let go of the expectations of, I've been talking a lot lately about this concept of perfection, and, the women, especially, I think it's all about, having this perfectionism and trying to master everything in every area of life, where it's just not possible. So giving ourselves a little grace and a little bit of an opportunity to have some space to embrace our creativity and self-expression and let go of, the status and the judgment and the expectations.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's important to have that balance, because we still have to need to do, not all of us can quit our jobs, we have kids and there's certain things that do need to get done. But if we can find that balance and just learn how to say no more and recognize that self-awareness piece of what is it that I really need to feel my best, so that I can show up with my energy and I can put my energy where I want to put it.
Yes. And a lot of that is, just simply doing things that bring you joy and allowing yourself to have that opportunity for, freedom and happiness. And because I think as mothers too, we give that so much to our children, right? And always, making sure that everybody is happy and comfortable, and, really working on self-development and giving them that in their life. And, I think to allow yourself to receive that as well it's such a gift to give yourself, so that you can give that back to your family and to your career.
Yeah, I love that. And even in the things that you don't necessarily enjoy or you have to do, but if you can find a way to make it fun for you, if you can find a way to bring the joy into that task, and even something as mundane as like washing the dishes, or something,
I know,
music, something that's going to actually bring you joy and make you a little happier.
Yeah, totally. I love that. And finding pockets of joy throughout your day too. It's so possible. And just little moments of mindfulness and presence, and, really tuning into your energy state and how you can help to elevate it or expand and find that balance, again, in the simplest moments. And it's so possible, I think, when you just start checking in with yourself more often and noticing your energy and how you feel, and what you can do to sort of shift it in a way that's going to bring you some, more positivity and joy to your day.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'm so happy that we had you. I know there's so many women that need to hear this information. And so can you tell us a little bit more about where we can connect with you? And I know you probably have some amazing resources for women.
Definitely. Yeah, I have a private Facebook group community that I would love. Anybody is welcome to come on over and join. That's called Find Energy, Rise Above Chronic Stress and Fatigue. So you can find me there on Facebook. And then on Instagram, I am at The Revolution Health. And I have a couple of freebie offers there that anybody can go ahead and grab. 5 ways to boost energy naturally for women. So that's a great resource that I have on Instagram that I can also share, with your community as well. And lots of great resources and trainings always going on inside the group. I'm doing video trainings weekly and putting out resources every week to support women with stress and energy. So come on over and join.
Awesome. And we will put that in the show notes as well.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well, this was amazing, Misty. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, thank you so much. And we will talk to you soon. Did you love this episode? I would love to connect with you and hear all of your ahas. Do me a favor, take a screenshot right now. Tag me on IG your biggest takeaway. You can find the podcast at momsinbiz_podcast. And if you haven't joined the party yet, we are hanging out over on Facebook. We have a private group called Moms in Business. And this group is all about connection, community, and collaboration. So if you haven't joined us yet, please do come over and join in on the conversation.